Welcome to This Organized Life. If you're a mom, wife, or coffee lover seeking advice on how to reduce clutter and reclaim time, look no further than your host, Lori Palau, founder of Simply Be Organized and author of Hot Mess, a practical guide to getting organized. For a lot of people, clutter is their dirty little secret, but it doesn't have to be. Each week, we will share practical tips, chat with experts, and provide strategies on how to keep you organized. I hope that by sharing our stories, you feel a little less alone and more empowered to tackle the areas that are holding you back. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life podcast. If you are just joining us, welcome. We are so happy to have you here. The new year always brings in a lot of new listeners. So just a couple of talking points. If this is your first time here, make sure that you click that follow or subscribe button, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening on whatever podcast streaming app. We are all over social media at This Organized Life podcast or at Simply Be Organized, which is our parent company. You could drop us a line anytime you want, whether that's through a DM, an email, whatever. If you have a topic idea, a guest, a question, we love hearing from you guys. And of course, if you love this episode, make sure to share it with your friends. The best way that we are able to get our messaging out is through people like you, sharing our story and letting other people learn from our amazing guests, like the one I'm about to bring you today. So if you're listening in real time, it's January. And obviously that is a reset time. That's a reset of all the things. We're going to be decluttering our homes. We're going to be decluttering our finances. We are going to start exercising and eating right and doing all those things. But where do we start? How do we keep from falling off the wagon? And that's really what our goal is here, is to teach you these sustainable things so that a month from now or 3 weeks from now, you are not back there feeling defeated or falling into your old patterns of behavior. And so joining me today is Megan Dahlman. And Megan is a sought after trainer. She helps women specifically in kind of like their 40-ish range. So kind of our core demographic. She's got a degree in exercise science and physiology, and she's got all of the scientific stuff that gives us all the facts and figures about why we should be doing things, but she helps us to apply these healthy strategies in practical ways. And that's what we love here, because so many of us know what we should be doing or what we shouldn't be doing, but actually taking action is where we get stuck. And so that's why I wanted to bring Megan out so we could talk about, let's set ourselves up on this path for success as we embark onto 2024. So without further ado, let me welcome my friend, Megan Dahlman, to the show. Welcome, Megan.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you and your audience.
Yes.
And I'm just pumped for this conversation. Good timing. We all need to hear this time of year.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So gave a super top line overview in your own words. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist, and I coach women to dial in their fitness and nutrition habits in as simple and doable and sustainable ways as possible. And I just have a passion for helping women not become an expert in this. You know, they do not need to love fitness as much as I do. I just want them to feel really, really good in their body. I want women to not feel like their body is ever a hindrance to doing the things that they love to do in life. I want them to feel like their body is fun. It's something that they can enjoy, and they can be effective at everything they're called to do in life. They don't have to say no or hesitate because they're like, well, my back might go out, or I don't think I'm strong enough for that, or I don't have the stamina for that. I never want your body to get in the way of anything you're called to do or want to do in life. So that's what I help you do. We do it in really simple, practical ways.
I love that. And you said something that like really resonates with me, because I've had similar conversations when it comes to organizing. I'm like, listen, I want you to have an organized space or your calendar to not feel overwhelmed and overflowing so that you have freedom to do the things that you want. I don't expect you to get jazzed up by the Container Store. And, I don't expect you to like look at a cluttered space and be like, oh, yay, let me dig into that. That's my own thing. What I want you to do is just say, how can I apply this so that I can be physically, mentally, spiritually healthy? And that's so much with organization as well as fitness and taking care of your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, I think, especially in the fitness industry, I don't know what it is, but it gets so complicated real quick. And it makes you feel like in order to do this well, in order to be successful, I'm going to have to become an expert at this. And I'm going to have to do this like all the personal trainers are doing this. And there's this huge gap between like real world women and like people who live and breathe and sleep this stuff. And like, unfortunately, that gap is not getting like brought together at all. And that's kind of where I try to stand in the gap and be like, what is the bare minimum that you need to know? Like, you don't need to know that much. And unfortunately, it just gets so complicated that we get so overwhelmed and we end up not taking any action. And we live in this place of feeling like a failure, feeling like, oh, these are all the things I should be doing, but I just don't do it. And so let's get rid of that mindset altogether and empower you to take care of your body in really simple ways so you can feel so good.
I love that. So what are some of the common things that you hear from people? I mean, again, especially this time of year, and we've got people listening from all over the world, right? But I know, like for me, I'm in the Northeast. It's cold. People are eating comfort foods. We're just coming off the holidays.
Yeah.
Everything went off the rails. And like, that's fine. Like, there's no judgment. There's no shame. But we often have that after effect of now we just feel bleh.
Right.
And so we sit there, we go, that's it. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm going to abstain from this. And that often ends up not well.
Yeah. Yeah. It tends to be this like giant pendulum swing where it's like, whoa, we were so far off the rails in one direction. And now I'm paying the price that like, as soon as someone lets go of that pendulum, it almost like has to swing the exact same distance in the opposite direction. We're like, now I have to try to be perfect. And we all know that that doesn't happen. We can't do like this perfect full blown fitness and nutrition routine. We embark on that and try because we're highly, highly motivated in that moment. We feel the effects of my body doesn't feel good. After spending the last 2 months of just overindulging and not moving my body, wow, I am reminded of how that doesn't feel good. And so we come into this like moment in time in January where we're like as motivated as we possibly could be. But unfortunately, I always say like, you've got to set goals and create habits in your life that match actually your lowest levels of motivation. So think about where you're at when your motivation is at its lowest, when you're not in the mood, you don't have the time, you don't have the energy, and create a plan, create a routine that is still doable at that level of motivation. Because if you're always creating routines, like when you're feeling this heightened sense of motivation, like I can't wait to get back in the gym, I have got to like eat only vegetables and drink water for a week straight, like you're going to fall flat on your face. You just will. So I almost want to tell people like pump the brakes. I love that you're motivated right now. That's awesome. But let's not set a routine right now at your highest level of motivation. Let's roll it back and make sure that this is still doable when you wake up one day and don't feel like you have the energy or the time to do it.
Can I tell you a real life story that I'm like, holy, like that to me was like a big light bulb moment. So I live in this cute little river town in Pennsylvania, and it's very like bucolic and very like kind of Gilmore Girls-ish and whatnot. And we're right on the Delaware River. And so it's called the tow path, and you can ride your bikes or you can run or you could just go for a walk. And in the fall specifically, it's just beautiful in where we live. I mean, the foliage and whatnot. And
Yeah.
one day, not too long ago, I went for like a nice like 4 mile walk up and down the river on the canal. And I just felt so good. Mentally, I felt good. My body felt good. I was, whatever, listening to a podcast and walking and just taking in the nature. And I was like, I'm going to do this every day. I got done. And I was like, why don't I do this every day? It's basically in my backyard and I am going to do this every day. I did it for 3 days.
Right, right.
And that was it. And I have grown kids. Like my kids, I'm not even like a busy mom with like littles that I'm juggling. But one day it rained. One day I woke up and I just didn't feel like it. I'd had too much wine the night before. Whatever it was, it took me 3 whole days, people, for me because I set this expectation of like, I'm going to do this every day. And like, I know better. So I was that. Exactly what you're talking about. Like I was in this moment of high and calm and the stars and moon were aligned. So I made this unrealistic goal for myself. And
yeah. And what you experienced there was like that all or nothing mentality, which is like our biggest downfall. It's the most common way that we self-sabotage when we're trying to embark on some sort of a routine. It's like we get that burst of motivation. We're like, oh, I'm going to do all of these things. I'm going to get a gym membership and I'm going to go to the gym every single day, or I'm going to do this 4 mile walk every day. And then we're all in and we don't have like a backup plan. We don't have like a okay, what am I going to do on the days that I have super low motivation? What am I going to do on the day that I wake up and I feel sick? What am I going to do on the day where I wake up and my kids suddenly have all of these things that they need me for, or I have an elderly parent that I need to care for, or we get thrown curveballs more days than we don't. Like we have more days that don't go as planned than we do days that do. And so we have got to create a routine that can be flexible and roll with the punches. And I'm sorry, but if you're committing to a 45-minute long HIIT workout 5 days a week, that can't really roll with the punches unless you are someone that lives and breathes and sleeps this stuff. And the majority of women just aren't. And so they feel so bad and ashamed that they can't be consistent. And so you got to pull it back and be like, what is actually something that I can do, even if it's pouring down rain out? Maybe I have a 10-minute body weight only routine that I can do in my living room for those days. And so you have all these like plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, like make it as like your bench should be super deep, right? For those of us that are like athlete moms, like you should have like a deep bench where when your star player can't pop onto the field, you've got your backup, and then you've got a really good backup for that one and a really good backup for that one. Most of us fail when we only have our first string players. We only have that plan A. So you've got to have all of these backup plans because honestly, most days you're going to have to use it.
I love that. What is your thought on like the role of accountability partners? See, because all I keep thinking of is there's so many different reasons, obviously, why people fall off the wagon or just don't get on it from the get-go, or just avoid this. And I remember, and I've talked about this like before on the show, when my kids were young, I was so prideful that I was like, I don't have time. I'm so busy. I'm not, so I wouldn't make the time, right, for myself, and wore that almost like a badge of honor. Like I'm so busy doing with like, I don't have time. Like, look at all of you moms out there. Like, I'm ashamed to admit it, but deep down inside, there was this little bit of like, how dare you prioritize that time? So there's this false narrative that we tell ourselves that we're not deserving or worthy of carving out any time for ourselves and our own physical, mental, and physical health. But then there's also that I know now I have a couple of women who are my friends and my workout buddies. And it's like, I don't feel like going to the gym today. And they're like, you're going. And they're, you know what I mean? And you go because of them. So how important is that for you to like, I know it's kind of like two questions, but addressing the I'm not worthy. I have to put everybody else in
Right.
front of me. So
Yeah.
then I have nothing left.
Right.
And then also the what parameters to hold myself accountable when I am not feeling like it.
Yeah, I mean, to address the first piece, it's like your self-care. So feeding your body and moving it well so that you stay healthy and fit. Those things make you more effective for all those other things that you're trying to do in life. All of the other things on your checklist, those things drain your battery. Those things are going to pull from you. They're going to pull energy out of you. And if you want to have any energy left, you have to do the things that fill that battery back up, that recharge that battery. And eating good food, like you do not deserve a badge of honor if you're skipping meals. Like that's not like, I'm just so busy, I don't have any time to eat. Like that's not something to be proud about. It means that you're running on so low energy. And then same with the fitness. Like I'm just so busy. I'm so busy all day long. I'm on my feet constantly. I just don't have any time to exercise. It's like, that means that everything that you're doing is being done from like a super drained battery. And so if you want to do any of those things well and not get to the point where you have a complete mental breakdown, where one day you completely throw in the towel and say, I can't do any of this anymore. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stretched thin. Feel like I'm going psychotic. You've got to take these moments to recharge your battery somehow every single day. So that is really important. It's not selfish. It's actually selfless, because I know you don't want to do it. If it was something, like, I get a massage every single day, like that could tip into the area of like, I'm doing something super selfish every single day. But honestly, you don't want to do it necessarily. So it's not really a selfish thing that you're
Right.
to do it. So, but those things have to happen in order for you to do all of your other responsibilities well. So that's where you can change your mindset around that. But when it comes to accountability is one thing that you can tap into that can help you be more consistent with a habit that you struggle with. We all have habits in our life, whether it is like keeping our house uncluttered, whether it is the fitness and the nutrition piece. Like we all have habits that we struggle with them, like we struggle to stay consistent with them. And in order to build consistency, having accountability, effective accountability, can be very powerful. Now, accountability partners are only one of 4 different types of accountability. And I think people go to that first without realizing that, back it up, accountability is actually, the true definition of it is saying that you're going to do something and all of the impetus and all of the responsibility is on you. Most of us don't own our journey to begin with. We say like, I want to work out every single day and I'm going to put all of that responsibility to show up and do it on my friends. If they don't ask me to do it, I'm not going to do it. It's their fault that I didn't do it today. My workout partner got sick today, so I just didn't go to the gym. And if we have that mentality about accountability partners, like then it's defeating the purpose. So you kind of have to start with accountability of, I first have to be accountable to myself, that what I say I'm going to do, I'm going to let my yes be yes, my no be no. And then I'm going to tap into these other layers of accountability. Having accountability partners is one. Using tracking and journaling is another layer of accountability. Being in a like-minded community is a third layer of accountability. And having a coach, this is someone who's not in the trenches with you like an accountability partner is. This is someone who's above the trench, walking alongside you as you are in the trench. And this is someone who has that like bigger perspective that can guide you through the trench easier. So if you have all of these 4 layers of accountability in place, you are going to be far more successful at your consistency endeavors than if you only have one or none. So I always say, like, if showing up and being a fit person and someone who consistently exercise is a constant struggle for you, then you better get every single piece of accountability in place.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love how you broke it down into different components of like, that's one piece of the pie. No pun
Right.
intended. But like
Yeah.
that's that's one thing. There's so many different layers of accountability. And I love that it comes with starting with yourself.
Yeah. It really does. It really does. And that's when it starts there, then, if all those other accountability measures, maybe you've been using a tracking app on your phone and that's one thing that you've been using to stay accountable. What if one day like your phone is dead and you don't have a way to track, or, like your coach is sick for the day and has to cancel the appointment, or the community, you can't log in and be with your community that's helping you stay accountable. So you have, once again, all these backup plans.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have all your eggs in one basket where it's like, in order to stay accountable, I only have accountability partners. Like the more like humble you can get yourself and realize I need a ton of help. Actually, I need as much help as I can get. If this is something that's this important to me, I need as much help as I can get from every single avenue. And that's where you're going to get successful.
I love it. I love it. All right. So I'm going to ask a question that is probably not as black and white as the question as I'm going to pose it, but it's
Sure.
the $1,000,000 question is, how long do I need to work out for? There's all these different conflicting things of all you need is a 20-minute HIIT workout, or you need to work out an hour a day, or you need to do 10,000 steps. And I know people want to say, I checked that box. I did this. So what is your response to that? Because I know it is not a simple answer.
You are absolutely right. It is a very complicated answer. And, most people come at that question from a place of what is the thing that's going to get me the biggest results right now? If I'm going to do this, if I'm going to work out, what's going to be the best use of my time? What is going to be the thing that creates the most change in my body, And we've heard the kind of gold standard for creating, significant body composition change and just seeing great progress in your overall fitness. And it's a total of 5 hours of physical activity a week.
Okay.
And that is it's broken up into high intensity, medium intensity, and low intensity. So it doesn't mean like 5-hour-long HIIT long workouts or 5 runs a week. Like that's broken up, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
approximately 45 minutes a day. Okay. So that's kind of like maybe your finish line. And that could be where you might end up 3-4 years from now. But that does not mean that's where you should start right now. I want you to come at this question from the perspective of what would be better than what I'm doing right now.
I love
So
that. Yes, I tell people that all the time. If you are doing even 80%, that's 80% more than you were doing if you did nothing, or 50%.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so you need to take a moment and just self-evaluate and be like, well, what am I doing right now? Am I, walking 2 days a week with my friends? Okay, that's great. I know it's definitely nowhere near that 5 hours, 45 minutes a day thing. So what could I do better? Maybe I can do a third walk a week with my friends. That's a great place to start. And I always say, start with something that is like the lowest barrier to entry, the thing that feels familiar, the thing that doesn't have this giant learning curve, the thing that doesn't feel painful. So just take where you're at right now and just say, what would be 1% better? And, this is like the classic James Clear from Atomic Habits, like the 1% better thing. And we severely underestimate the power of that.
So true.
In all the coaching that I do, we always take this habit stacking approach where it's like, we are going to like step 1, the first like layer that we create in your tower is going to be a really, really easy habit. It's going to be something that's maybe even easier than you think you can do right now, on purpose, like purposefully going to be super duper easy. We're going to get really, really good at that. We're going to master that habit. And then we're going to stack the next habit on top of that. And then once we master that, now you have 2 habits going. You're getting really good and consistent at showing up for those 2 habits. Then let's stack the next habit on top of that. And so pretty soon we've got this beautiful tower of really good, healthy habits. And before you know it, you have somewhere along the way become this woman that you are easily exercising and being active 5 hours a week. It's not like this giant chore because you did it at a really slow pace. The beauty of that habit stacking approach is that when times get tough, when life throws you curveballs, because we already established that you get those, you can remove one block at a time. Like the most challenging habit, the last one that you put on, maybe it was like, now I'm going to work on powerlifting, like that's intense. That's a lot. That takes a lot of energy, a lot of motivation. You'd be like, you know what? I'm sick this month, or I've got kids that are sick, or I've got whatever it might be. You can pull that off. And now you still have a stack of habits that are worth doing. But most of the time we act like toddlers. We throw a little toddler tantrum. And when things aren't going well, we walk up to that block of habits, that whole tower, and we kick the entire thing over. We do nothing. And so by going about it in the habit stacking method of saying, okay, what's one thing that's a little bit better than what I'm doing now? And then I'm going to build on that and then build on that. Then we have this beautiful model that we can add to and remove from in a way that's never self-sabotaging anymore.
Well, I love that. I love that. What about, I'm curious, and this is, again, a little selfish on my part. What about somebody who is, you deal with a lot of women that are like going through different changes in their bodies, whether they're having kids. I know you had your own journey and we can, touch on that, but like I'm going through menopause, right? So I'm in that season. So we've got people that are kind of running the gamut. You've got people that don't feel good in their body because maybe they're constantly popping out babies, or they're trying to get back into their baby weight, or now my metabolism is slowing down and I'm storing fat in places that I never used to, or whatever it is. What's your advice on staying positive, staying motivated, and maybe even modifying and adapting your approach or your workouts as you're going through as your body is going through these changes? Because the struggle's real. I don't care, again, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like that's just the reality for most women.
Yeah. The only thing I would say that you need to modify for is anything that is dysfunction. Okay. So if you've got something in your body that's not functioning properly, and this could be like your back, could be your hips, this could be, your abdominals from diastasis recti or pelvic floor health, like that's where modifications, we need to consider those. If there's something that's not functioning the way it was designed to function, then let's take a look at modifications. But for the most part, you probably will not need to modify at all as you age. Your body can stay very strong and healthy if you just continue to do what you're doing. Maybe the only thing that you need to do is build in a little bit more recovery time. As your body gets older, your body takes a little bit more time to recover in between sets and reps and in between workout sessions. So back when you were 20, you probably could have done 2-a-days, or you could have done back-to-back really hard, heavy lifting days. Probably not wise to do that now because your soft tissues, your muscles, and even your nervous system might not be fully recovered from that routine. And so this is where you have to just start to be really wise about, okay, I'm going to have this heavy lifting day. I'm going to lift weights on Monday, and I'm definitely not going to do it on Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be where I do my yoga style routine, where I work on mobility and something like much more moderate and kind of encourages recovery in my body. And then when I come back to it on Wednesday, I'm going to be ready again to lift heavy weights. So really, that's the only thing you probably need to modify as you age, is just that. The other thing I do recommend as you're getting older is that you probably just need to get laser focused on
Or it'd be like laser surgery. I would like to get that.
Yeah, that too. No, laser focused on what your goals are and why. Okay. I think up to this point, a lot of us are like, I just don't want to have fat on my body. You know,
Sure.
that's like kind of often our primary like motivator for exercising. If you ask a lot of women in their 20s and 30s, sometimes it's like, if you knew that you had perfect body composition, would you still work out? And they'd be like, probably not.
Right.
And we might, as slightly older women say the same thing of like, it's really only about the fat for me. But as we get older and wiser, we realize, wait a second, there's a lot more going on in my body that I need to focus on and like make sure that my workouts are fostering those things. So bone health is a huge thing. Bone
Mhm.
health, women are four times more likely to develop osteoporosis than men. And estrogen, as you are in midlife, going through perimenopause, postmenopause, estrogen is a hormone that protects against excessive bone loss. And when your estrogen is declining, your bone loss speeds up. In fact, in the first like 5 to 7 years after menopause, women can lose up to 20% or more of their bone density if they're
Wow.
not doing something about it.
Mhm.
Okay. Sarcopenia, this is a fancy word for muscle loss. Muscle loss is the primary reason why you put on fat in midlife. It is the primary reason why your metabolism slows down. Metabolism slowing down is not a natural effect of aging. Okay. Your metabolism slows down because you are moving a little less and you're losing muscle mass. That's why your metabolism slows down. You have less active tissue in your body. So I just want women to hear that and be like, wait a second. I just thought like my metabolism was slowing down because I'm getting older. It's like, no, you're probably losing muscle mass actually. So making sure that you maintain muscle mass into your 40s, 50s, 60s should be like one of your top priorities. And the beautiful thing with that is that resistance training, strength training is the most effective thing for bone health too. It's far more effective than any of those like pounding. We think like walking, jogging, running, like that's the best thing for bone health. Actually, no, the very best thing for bone health is resistance training. So we can kill two birds with one stone on that one. And then mobility and joint flexibility is another thing that you should be focusing on. So it's just so important that you have a well-rounded program as you're aging that's primarily focused on building and maintaining your muscle mass and encouraging that good functional mobility.
I like that. And I like what that you're saying. It has to be bigger than the just being able to fit into your,
Yep.
into your skinny jeans or have a flat stomach. And it's stuff that I could like have to kind of remind myself as well. And I tell this to people when it comes to organizing your home is if the if your why is just have an organized pantry, you're going to kind of come up empty and defeated because
Yeah.
that lasts so long, right? Like that's
Yep.
just it's too shallow. It has to be the so that. And I love the fact, and as somebody who, like I said, is in the throes of like, I'm working out, I'm not seeing the results that I did back when I was younger, or it was easier.
Yeah.
I could eat something and then like it would either not put on weight or I could take it off really quick. And I just can't right now, like I'm just not in that season, but I still continue to go because it's giving me all these other benefits. So yes, I'm going, maybe it's not coming off, maybe I'm not, but it's that repetition of going is fostering that healthy habits, prioritizing myself, my overall well-being. And that again, it's the big picture of things. And I think that is what is so important.
Yeah. And you look at little kids, they have a perspective of like what's happening right now in that moment in life. And as a parent, you're like, no, we got to look at the whole day. They're like, I want an ice cream cone right now. And in the back of your mind, you're like, we have a birthday party to go to later today. And no, you can't have this ice cream cone right now. So there's this perspective that we have to also have at this phase of life too. It's like, what's the big picture? Where do I want to be when I'm 80 years old? Do I
Mhm.
still want to be somebody that's like all or nothing with my fitness? Do I still want to be somebody who's sedentary half the time and then going all in the other half the time? Do I want to be someone that doesn't have very good balance. And I'm afraid that if I step on the curb, I'm going to fall and my bones are going to be so brittle, I'm going to break a hip. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be that 80-year-old woman. And so most of my workouts now are not so much of I'm looking just at the ice cream sandwich in this moment. It's like this routine that I'm doing today, me showing up and what I'm choosing to do today, whether it's a 10-minute thing or whether it's a 45-minute thing, this is depositing health and strength and longevity in my life so I can be doing these things when I'm still 80.
Yeah. And making it so actionable so that the consistency is easy to, like we talked about at
Yeah.
the top of the episode, setting these realistic expectations so that you can make this sustainable, because we're playing a long game, right?
Right.
We're not talking about this, somebody that says, my kid's getting married or I'm getting married. Like I'm trying to lose weight for a specific thing, or I'm trying to do this for a specific goal. We're talking about the greater good of living a healthy, organized life, and fitness, mental fitness, physical fitness is all part of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it really is the simple, short, bite-sized things that you are going to be able to do for so long. And it could be, every day I say, just move somehow every day and figure out, like, maybe have 3 things in the back of your mind of like, these are my 3 feel good move things that I can do each day. This could be that plan C or that plan D. It could be, I just go for a 10-minute walk after dinner. You can remind yourself in the back of your mind, like that alone does wonders for reducing blood sugars, reducing blood pressure, for improving like stress hormones. Like it does so many good things of just going for a simple 5 to 10-minute walk after a meal. Great. That would be one good active thing a day. I know for myself, if I can't do a workout some days, it's not this like big, shameful, like, oh no, I missed something. It's like, no, what would feel good right now? What can I do right now that would feel really good on my body? I sat at my desk a lot today. I was tense. I was stressed. So let me just do some posture stretches, some like downward dog, some doorway chest stretches, just some things to unwind my body. It's like, was that a box I had to check? Like,
right.
no, it wasn't like no one wrote that as a program for me to do that I was supposed to check off for the day. It became more of a, like, I want to do this for myself. This feels really good for me to do. And to have a handful of those things that you just do each day because they feel so good. And I know when you're first starting out, it's like, well, what what do I do? What are those things? And that's where having that coach is really important and really helpful to be like, let's do these 3 stretches because this is the balanced approach. Let's do this group of 4 strength training movements because it's going to make sure that you're not overtraining one thing. And yeah, so that's where having a coach to help you can be really helpful.
Well, that's a perfect lead in, because I was going to say, even though I could talk to you, for hours on all things, that we didn't even
Yeah.
scratch the surface on
Yeah.
eating and all this, but I feel like we gave so much valuable information. Let our listeners know, where can they connect up with you? Because you do online coaching. You do have programs on your website. You have tons of like body quizzes. I was taking them.
Cool.
So and we'll link, of course, in the show notes to all the things, but let our listeners know, what's the best place for them to go to learn more?
Well, I think the best place, just based on our conversation that we had today about like getting the ball rolling, making sure that you're not jumping into the deep end and doing too much and you're setting yourself up for success. I have a 5-day guide that's going to get your habits jump started. This is not just fitness. We do nutrition tips too. And each day I tell you one thing to focus on that day. And then day 2, I'm like, hey, remember yesterday? Let's do that again. Now let's add this other habit. So we do the habit stacking approach.
Yep.
And by day 5, you're like, wow, I'm doing this one really good, feel good stretch every day. I'm doing this walking thing where I'm focusing on my posture in this way while I'm walking. And I'm doing these 2 nutrition habits each day. And you have this really lovely bundle of habits that are getting the ball rolling. So this you can grab for totally for free if you go to vigeofit.com/tips. So I'll make sure, Laura, you've got that link.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can sign up, grab that for free and get going on that. And then of course, come check me out on my podcast too. So Self-Care Simplified, we're releasing 2, hopefully 3 episodes every week here soon, about just super simple self-care tips. Like everything we talked about today, if all is resonating with you, you can have your earballs multiple times a week. So
I love it.
definitely check that out. And then I'm on Instagram a lot too, just at Megan Dahlman.
Awesome. And again, we'll link to all things Megan in our show notes, so make sure you check that out. All right, Megan, this is so great. And I'm going to encourage everybody to check out Megan's guide, all the things that she has, because really so many valuable resources, stuff that we talked about, even stuff, like I said, that we didn't get to yet. But thank you for inspiring us. And I know you referenced James Clear, and we talked about habit stacking, and it's something that our listeners that have been around for a long time are familiar with, which leads me to my first wrap-up question, which is there a book that has been really something that impactful for you? It could be professionally, it could be personally, that you want to share with us, something that maybe you either go back to or tell people like, this is a must read.
So I consume books like crazy. I'm always reading books, and I always have like a couple books going, and usually like a novel of some sort, and then some sort of like business book. But I gotta say, like, just for my own mental health, it's like the novels, the nonfictions that I just try to dive into more than anything, because if you're stressed out, if you've got a lot on your plate, if you feel like your mind is cluttered, there is something powerful about reading a really good novel. And I'm a huge fan of the Beatrice Williams books. Have
Okay.
you ever read her stuff?
No, because
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
really bad at reading fiction. And
Okay.
it's something, and I say it every year, that I'm going to try to be more intentional about incorporating more fiction, because that's like a false narrative that I'm always telling myself, read
Because you're
like
hustling.
leadership.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
I know.
And it's fake news. And I know this. So I need more
Yeah,
recommendations.
you need that like
so wait,
unwind.
so
So
tell
I
me,
highly recommend.
what's
So
her name?
she's Beatrice Williams, and
Okay.
her books are all like historical fiction, and they all
Ooh.
feature a power woman as the main character. That is a
Ooh.
complicated character, and she always comes out on top, but it's usually set in like World War I, World War II. And like there's so much really neat, like historical complication, drama, romance going on in her books. So it takes periods of time that you might not know very much about, and just brings it to life. I love her books so
Okay.
much.
I love it. I am going to go and get one of her books and
Yes.
start reading, and I will let you know.
Like right away.
Stat, I am. As soon as we're done,
Yeah.
making it happen. Okay. And then our last 2 questions that we ask every guest, every series since day one, because our show's about honesty, authenticity, and all things real here. We know that we can't be on top thriving everywhere. There's always ebbs and flows in our lives. So in this particular season of your life, where do you feel that you are the most organized, and where do you feel like a little bit of a hot mess?
I am a major hot mess when it comes to like keeping the family organized right now. Like even as simple as like planning meals and dinners, like I am really, really bad about that. Which is hilarious because as a nutrition coach, you would think that I'd be
I
like
was
the
going to
meal
say,
planning genius.
that is a little, that is a little,
I'm really bad about
hysterical.
that. I can't tell you how many days a week it gets to be like 5:30 and we're like, well, shoot, what are we going to have for dinner? And
That's
my
so
husband does
funny.
most of the cooking in the house. So that's
Okay.
why I feel like a hot mess on that. But my kids, they're in, you know, coming out of elementary, going into middle school, they're all going in multiple directions. And it's just like every day, it's like you're trying to dodge balls like coming at you. And dinner is this thing that just like hits you at the wrong time.
Are you a meal prepper? Because I'm like
No,
I'm a huge Sunday meal
no,
prepper. Like
I'm
it's my
not.
thing.
No,
Oh, it's a game
I'm not.
changer.
And I maybe people listening need to hear this, that you can still be a healthy eater and not have all of your meals prepped for the week. And here's my little hack. And I know you didn't ask for this,
No,
but
but go ahead.
for my own meals, I follow the 3337 meal planning hack. So basically I have 3 meals that I rotate through for breakfast, 3 that I rotate through for lunches, 3 snack ideas that I rotate through, and then dinners can be up to 7 ideas. So really, I
Oh,
eliminate choices as much as I possibly can so that I'm not reinventing the wheel all the time. So when it comes to my own meals, like breakfast, lunch, and snack, I'm pretty much just eating the same thing over and over again. So I guess that feels pretty organized.
I love that. I'm so glad that you shared that.
Yeah, yeah. And I just make sure that each of my meals include protein and produce. I always say, eat your pros. So protein, produce at
Mm.
each of your meals, that kind of gives you a way to start with your meals. But when it comes to dinners, because my husband handles that most of the time, and like our evening schedule is just bonkers. It just
It's
always feels messy
okay.
every dinner
Listen,
time. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know because your kids are like 10 and 13 at the time that this
Yeah.
airs or whatever. You're in crazy town. Like that's if your kids are active, whether they're in
Yeah.
sports or they're in music or whatever, theater, like that is like the insanity. And I applaud people that are like, we can all sit down to eat every night as a family. Like, good for you. And no, but that was never us. Like, that was just never us. And you can still, it's a lot. It's a
It's a
lot.
lot. I would rather do this than toddlers, to be quite honest.
Oh
Um,
yeah, me too.
but you're spending a lot of time in the car. It's just a lot of craziness. And on the flip side of the coin, where I do feel the most organized is
Yeah.
probably my fitness.
Good.
Everything else can be bonkers. I know you would hope that I would say that after this conversation, but it's true. Like everything else in my day can be bonkers, but it matters so much to me because it really does set the tone for my day. It's almost like that thing that, like I said, it charges up my battery. I have more mental clarity. I have more peace of mind, more calmness. Like if I make sure I get my routine done. And often the night before, I look over the landscape of the next day and it's like, whoa, that day is crazy. There's no way I'm going to get it done. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to wake up half an hour earlier. Like that's how important it has
Right.
become to me. And it's taken a lot of years to get to that point. So I don't want people to think like, well, that's a gold standard. Like, no. It's different for everybody. But my fitness is definitely something that I've been very organized. I just don't miss workouts. Like I need them.
Yeah.
Literally need them. Yeah.
Well, you're the coach that we need in our corner because when we're not, and again, it becomes contagious, right? You start to surround yourself. And that's when you were talking about that community piece earlier. And that's what we say also about organizing is, every assistant that I've ever had that's worked for me they're like, I went home and did this because it becomes infectious when you're around something that is done in a positive way. That's not overly instructional. I could not speak.
Yeah.
Or, like legalistic. And it's just like, here, this is what we're doing. It provides you this, like, where can we go next? How can we habit stuff? How can we build this and incorporate it? So I love that. I love all the things. Thank you so much, Megan. We'll have to have you back on the show and we could talk all about meals and other tips and stuff because
I'll give you all of my meal planning tips.
maybe I'll come on your show and we could talk about meal planning.
There we go. I like it.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys. And again, I know this is a great opportunity for you to have us as your accountability partner if I could take that one again, Kimberly. This is a great opportunity for us to be your accountability partner for organizing and decluttering and all the things. Pop us in your ears or watch us on YouTube as you're going through your own decluttering journey, or trying to figure out how can I incorporate all of these healthy habits into my life the start of this year. So make sure, again, follow us, subscribe, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please spread the love and share it with your friends. And if this is your first time joining us, make sure to click the subscribe button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, please leave us a review so other people know that our show is worth the listen. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at This Organized Life Podcast. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can head on over to our website at simply the letter B like boy organized.com, which is filled with tons of resources, including free downloads, checklists, links to our amazing organizing partners, and all of our digital offerings. I'll see you next week for another episode of This Organized Life.